Senator Hunt, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. He yields his 2 seconds. All right. Colleagues, as a senior member on the Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee, I've heard this bill many, many times over the years, and I'll warmly remind Senator Lippincott about the hearing where he sat and answered questions that he never seemed to understand through the whole series of questions that land can't vote. Land doesn't vote. Nebraskans in CD3 are not disenfranchised because their vote counts the same way as everybody else, thanks to the district plan. A lot of things that Senator Lippincott is saying, I don't know what he's talking about, because, you know, colleagues, it makes sense that when we've got 4 hours to talk about a bill, we're going to spend a lot of time going over the data and the history and what the Constitution says and what other states do, and that's all important. But I think that we have a responsibility here to just say what's really going on. This bill is about locking up all 5 of Nebraska's electoral votes for the Republican Party because the current system doesn't always give them what they want. That's it. And so Senator Lippincott has had, 10 minutes to open, 5 minutes from Senator Storer. I'm sure he's going to get more time to say all kinds of things when he should just say that and sit down and let us get to the end of this 4-hour debate. It's about locking up the votes for the Republican Party because they don't always win, and they can't stand it. It's about rolling back a fair representative process because one district didn't vote the way the majority wanted a couple of times. And that's not democracy. That's a consolidation of power, and it's disenfranchisement. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you only believe in democracy when you get the result that you like, you don't believe in democracy. And that's exactly what LB3 is all about. It's a test of whether you're willing to uphold the principle of representation, even when the results are inconvenient or not preferable to those in power. And one thing that conservatives have often told opponents to LB3, including myself, is, well, how would you like it if Mitt Romney had won? Well, what if Barack Obama hadn't won the electoral vote? How would you like that? I don't care. I don't care. What I want is for every member of their district to have their voice heard, and I don't care who that goes for. I don't care if CD3 votes blue. I don't care if CD2 votes red. What I care about is that the vote stays closest to the people who are casting it, and Nebraska's system gets us closer to that than any other state. Right now, Nebraska's system allows for a very rare thing in politics: nuance. We have the ability, because of our unique system, to reflect the political diversity across our state. And frankly, it's the same thing that our nonpartisan unicameral does. As partisan as we can be, as quarrelsome as we can be, because of our nonpartisan system, we are able to elect people who better represent their districts. We allow the voters of CD2, or someday CD3, potentially, depending on shifting demographics in our state, or CD1, of course, they all matter. We allow them through this system to send a signal that they may differ from the majority. And that's not a flaw, that's a strength. And once we start gutting systems like our electoral vote system, because sometimes they don't produce the outcome that the majority likes, we lose the integrity of the whole system. If this body chooses to pass LB3, what we're really saying is that winning is more important than representation. That political advantage matters more than people. And that's not something that I'm willing to vote for, colleagues. So yes, let's talk about the history of the case law. Let's talk about the numbers and look at what other states do. But let's also be honest with ourselves. LB3 is not about fairness. It's not about representation. It's about control. It's about sore losers. It's about partisanship, and I urge this body to reject it. This isn't popular with Nebraskans. They have overwhelmingly stated in our live hearing and in letters and in advocacy and activism that LB3 is not what they want, and that goes across the gamut. We had a GOP party chair from a county in western Nebraska come in and argue against this because he thinks Nebraska is going more progressive and he wants CD3 to continue to have a voice. I think that's a great reason. It's about silencing voters in our state who don't vote the way Republicans want them to vote. And it's time for us to turn tail and reject this authoritarianism.
time,
Thank you,
Senator.
Mr. President.